takes me home, the light that guides the way, the thought of you alone.
Hello, everyone. This is Taimoor with another exciting episode of the podcast, Let's Talk About You. And today I have another special guest with me, Tony BERK. I can talk a lot about Tony here. First of all, Tony, thank you for being with us today. And just so the audience is, in case they don't know, you and I went to the same school. You were maybe a couple years junior than me. But one thing that I remember specifically about Tony is that he was one of the nicest guys in the school, athletic and everything. But I think his demeanor, his mannerism is something that stood out to me the most. I was new to the US. I was new to the school as well. But Tony was one of the guys, that I really felt comfortable talking to and spending time with in the school. So, Tony, first of all, thank you for, being the person you are, because I have a lot of good memories from the school. And then more than anything else, thank you for being with us today. So before we start, let me just ask you, how are you doing? How are things on your end?
Well, thank you for inviting me on this. When you first mentioned it a few months ago, I was so excited that you were doing this because I didn't know about this. But then I started watching some of your videos, and just how genuine you are is it excited me a lot that you invited me on this. It's just a pleasure. I am doing great. I have a lot of exciting things going on with music. I too just I've always had a great appreciation for you and who you are and how genuine and sincere of a person you are. So great to see you again and great to be here.
Great to have you. It's my absolute pleasure. So, Tony, let's talk about your music. So,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the new song that you just recently released,
Mhm.
some of the really awesome work that you have done over the past few years. But let me just start by asking you, what was your inspiration to become a musician in the first place?
Oh my gosh. So man, I think there are a few different aspects that really led me to become a musician. First of all, I come from a family of musicians. Everyone in my family does music in some way. My mom teaches music, taught at school, recorder, handbells, and is a musician herself, sings, plays several instruments. Both my sisters play instruments. One of my oldest sister sang in a choir, and she inspired me to join choir. My other sister, Sam, she inspired me a lot with my musical tastes. So she'd she'd get involved with a band, and I'd be attached to that band and listen to all their music. And my dad, he played guitar in a band too. So all around, from a very young age, I was just always involved in music in some way. I think it wasn't until high school, though, that I really was inspired to pursue it as a career. Um, and that had to do with a few aspects. I remember one, I guess, turning point for me was going to a Coldplay concert. Um, Coldplay was one of the bands that my sister Sam fell in love with in high school, and so I naturally just attached myself to them too. And I just remember going to a concert. This was my first concert I ever gone to, and just seeing that performance, seeing the way that someone can affect a crowd and just positively influence the world just through music, it was really inspiring to me. So I think, with a combination of how I was raised, but then also with just some musical influences, I think that's what shaped me or turned me into wanting to become a musician, really.
It's pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
so it runs in the family to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and sounds like that you had an environment around you that was very conducive to the work that you're doing now, plus, the inspiration that you have found along the way. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about Sam.
Yeah.
Sam and I were in a couple of classes together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have utmost respect and appreciation for her as well. And,
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good time in some of those classes that we were together. So shout out to Sam, if you're
Yeah.
watching. Hi there. So, Tony, you mentioned, Coldplay, and of course,
Yeah.
that's a band that all of us listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Coldplay is also one of my inspirations.
Yes. No way.
And talking about the bands, you've been also part of a band, called
Mm-hmm.
If Waltz Could Talk. So, can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about your time with the band and how that shaped your current musical journey and the work that you're doing now?
Yes, 100%. So, my band, If Walls Could Talk. So we've been around for a while now, since high school, and we are currently actually working on a new album, which I'm super excited about. But the band itself, man, it shaped me to really develop my songwriting skills, but then also I feel like it really helped shape the way I perform too. Um, if it weren't for the band, I wouldn't have had that experience in front of a stage and really kind of felt the way, I guess, just develop the way I interact with a crowd. Really, I guess I had before joining the band, I had a few instances where I like sang and were on the piano by like just by myself, but like being in the band made me find my love for that kind of performance and like almost like a theater esque, and which eventually, in college I did do theater and stuff too, and in high school I did a little theater too, but yeah, I think the band shaped me for those two things really. And yeah, like songwriting, helping me understand, the ability to collaborate with other artists and to really feel music, and to like on our last album, Press Start, we have this one song called Head Out the Window. And this song, it was a song that we had scrapped, but then brought it back, and for some reason it just like we were sitting in a rehearsal, and it just clicked, and everything that we worked on, um it just made sense. So certain things like that with songwriting, I just like have a way deeper appreciation for it. And just even the small things, like learning how to use certain um things in like our DAW, or how a tour goes, or things to do, things to be prepared for. I don't know, the band is huge shaping with who I am now, and continues to be every day, really.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense because
Yeah.
I did some solo music work, and then when I moved to Texas, I joined a band as well. And at that
Yes.
point, I realized how much, it helps you when you sit with the fellow musicians, exchange
Hmm.
ideas, and just it just brings the best out of you when you combine all those ideas. And
Yeah.
talking about the bands, Tony, especially your band, if I'm not wrong, you guys recently had a 10-year anniversary of fanfare event,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we
So
did. So
how did that go?
that was so cool. So what it was it's called a 10-year fanfare. So this was celebrating bands that had released music exactly 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
So for us, we done this event a few times. Like one time, they do it every year. Um and one time we did Panic at the Disco. So it's always just a fun event for us. That was the last performance that we really had before we started really diving into our songwriting. And so yeah, that was a really fun event. It's always cool to see what different artists perform. But this time, it was really cool because we were able to perform as 21 Pilots. So
Right.
essentially, it's like a little like a cover
Hmm.
gig, but we performed the album um, that was released 10 years ago. Uh, and so it was just, to me, that was an album that I loved, and it inspired me in so many different ways, and the way that I sing and even rap on some songs too. So being able to perform that, another cool thing about that performance too, we performed in the Pike Room of the Crowfoot in Pontiac, Michigan,
Oh wow.
and 21 Pilots performed on that exact same stage. I think it was 13 years ago. So it was just kind of
That's pretty awesome.
a crazy series of events that
Yeah.
they were there performing the same music. It was wild. Yeah.
Right. So you guys were not only performing their music, but you were performing at the same exact location they also performed
Yeah.
at. So
It was
that's pretty
wild.
awesome.
Yeah. And
This,
it's
I
funny
think,
too because I knew
yeah.
somebody who was there, a
Hmm.
friend of mine, a photographer who was at that concert. I think it was actually I think it had been 8 years ago, not 13. I said 13, but yeah, they were there 8 years prior and seen 21 Pilots, and they were there at that event when we did that little dedication to them. So it was crazy.
That's a neat idea, man. I mean, just
Yeah.
playing music like that essentially tributing, giving tribute to somebody else that you love and all that. So that's pretty awesome idea. So by
Yeah.
the way, to all of our listeners and viewers today, Tony does live streaming on Tuesdays, I believe.
Yeah, Tuesdays and
So
Thursdays. Yep.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. So when we upload this podcast on YouTube, I'm going to put links to his live stream and also some of the events that he
Awesome.
has done in music. So make sure you guys check that out, and especially the songs that Tony has made, which we're going to talk about here shortly.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Tony, before we talk about some of the work that you have recently done, can you talk to me about a little bit about your creative process? Like, what inspires you to continue to create such good music? Like, how do you draw inspiration? Like, do you sit down, think about the ideas, or does it just happen to you when you're doing something?
Yeah, so I love having this conversation. It's always yeah, it's always so interesting to see how everyone writes, and everyone writes so differently. For me, there are two different circumstances where I write the best or write the most. One of them being when it's nighttime and I'm like falling asleep. Because what'll usually happen is I'll start falling asleep and I'll be thinking about something, and all of a sudden I'll just come up with this melody. And it always starts with the melody for me. Um, Whether that's like for a chorus or like a piano part or something, I'll always start with this idea with the melody. And what I do is I usually wake myself up, go over to a piano and record a few like chord progressions that'll go along with that melody. And usually I have a pretty good understanding of what I want it to sound like or the style it wants to be. And then I'll either work on that until 4 a.m. or I'll go to sleep and the next morning continue to develop the song. But yeah, like I said, it always starts with a melody. Then I develop on that, and then it basically turns into producing at that point. After I develop like a full structure, like, oh, I want it to start with a verse, chorus, pre-chorus, bridge, whatever. But the other time that I notice that I write a lot is when I'm driving, which is unfortunate because it's hard to like write something down or record. But usually what I'll do is I'll have my phone over to the side of me. Trust me, I'm not texting and driving or anything. But I'll like press record on the memos, and I'll just like spat out a bunch of melodies or ideas that I have while I'm recording. I noticed a lot though, that would happen when I went to school, to college in Indiana. So I'd have 4-hour drives from Detroit to Indiana. And so that was full of just writing and
Right.
just these ideas that I had.
Making the most out of your time while driving, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So, Tony, I knew that you do music after high school. When I was, we've been friends on Facebook for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I did not realize how creative a person you are until I saw your Fago video that you did.
Oh my gosh.
Super fun, super creative. So I have to ask you, like, can you walk us through the idea behind that project and the
Yes.
work you put into that, please?
Oh, still one of my favorite things that I've done. Thank you for bringing
Mine as
that up.
well. I mean, I've watched it a few times, and I'm like, every time I watch it, I'm like, this is
Yeah.
perfect.
So so it was at the very beginning of the pandemic that I started my YouTube channel. So I have a YouTube channel called Notable. And the whole idea, the premise of Notable is making music out of anything and everything. So that's why it's like notable. It's like you can make music out of whatever, including Blueberry Fago. So what happened was I had made a few different videos, some like tutorials and stuff, but I was struggling to find an idea to do for that week because I post every week, still do. And I was struggling to find an idea for a video, and then I looked on the Billboard Top 100, and I saw that there was a song at that time that was near the top called Blueberry Fago, and it just struck me. I'm like, what if I made Blueberry Fago but using Blueberry Fago? And being in Michigan, fortunately, it's not too difficult to find Fago because that's where it's from.
That's the thing,
And
right?
yeah, and so it was kind of great. Although it was hard to find that 2-liter that I used in there. I had to get that on eBay. It was crazy. Like,
Okay.
because that song was coming out, it was at such high demand that everything else in the video was pretty easy to come by, but that 2-liter, Ooh, whoa, sorry. That 2 liter that I used for it was
It was
was
hard to
from
come by.
eBay.
Yeah.
But it's funny too that you mentioned that video, because that inspired me to basically turn in that direction with that YouTube channel. And so now I've done um banana pancakes on banana
Mhm.
pancakes, or songs on Oreos and such. And it's gotten me to a very fortunate place where I'm now monetized on YouTube. But then also working with other companies. For example, just a shout out to Makey Makey, which is this company that has these circuit boards that allow you to essentially plug this board into a banana and plug that into your computer, and you can touch the banana and it'll make a sound. It's crazy. It's so cool,
Oh wow.
and makes it so easy to make music out of whatever you want. So I've been working with them, and very fortunate to be working with them recently. Um, but yeah, no, that I'm glad that you mentioned that video, because it really was kind of a pivotal moment for me in my fun, crazy, silly music career here. Yeah.
Well, you say that, but I have to say, I think your music journey and the work that you're doing, I'm sure is inspiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that that was a pivotal moment in your musical journey, because sometimes you get an idea, you work on it, and it just becomes the next big thing. So
Mhm.
that tells us that if anybody who's listening to this or watching this, if you guys have an idea, make sure you work on it. Like, don't
Yeah.
let it rot on the
Ugh.
shelf or something.
Oh yeah.
You just never know. It might be the next big thing that, could be pivotal for you and also your listeners.
Yeah, 100%. Another great example of that, I mentioned the song with my band, Head Out the Window. We scrapped that song, and
Hmm.
we just so happened to have the heart to bring it back. And now it's my favorite song that we have on, probably of all time, really, that we've released. So 100%.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And also, I'm going to be posting links to Notable channel and also
Cool.
Tony's other channel as well. So make sure you guys go like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and that way you guys will have the updates for all the work that Tony's doing.
Appreciate that.
So Tony, moving on to the
Mhm.
next question, which is going to be my favorite question for today. Your new single, Ice Cream, just came out a
Yes.
few days ago. Super
Hmm.
fun, catchy, groovy song. And by the way, full disclaimer to the people listening to this, after listening to the song, you might have ice cream for breakfast. So just keep that in mind, because I did today. so, so Tony, can you walk us through the idea behind that song?
Yes.
I was following the videos that you were posting and the pictures you were posting on Facebook and other social media channels.
Mhm.
Even the marketing campaign that you did for that song was very attractive, very catchy,
Thank
very
you.
creative. Like I said, I actually did have ice cream after watching some of those stuff. So
Love it.
please walk us through the song, the idea, and like the entire project that you worked on.
Yes. Oh man. So this song has been in the works for a few years now. I remember coming up with the idea, I think it was in 2021, and I pitched the song to the band, and we worked on it. We worked on it for a little while, and then recently, within the last year, as we're starting to work on this new album, we kind of switched directions, and that song didn't really make sense with what we were creating. So I was like, hey, can I have this song and really work with it? And they were super super kind enough to let me do that. And so a little bit about the song. So Ice Cream is under basically, when you're younger, you can do whatever you want. You have the freedom to, just, there's no bills, there's no, expectations really. But when you're older, you have to do all that stuff that's annoying, and you have all these responsibilities. So it's not very freeing. But if you kind of flip that on its side and think, as an adult, you can do literally anything you want, including having ice cream for breakfast. So it's kind of pointing out this idea that, hey, you know what? It may not feel like it all the time, but you really have so much freedom to do anything you want, which is supposed to be kind of like this positive mentality of trying to encourage people not to think, oh man, we're getting older. It's supposed to be like,
Right.
hey, you can do what you want. Like do anything, really. So yeah, that's the whole premise of the song. And it's done in kind of a fun, silly way. Especially with the whole ice cream. But I really attached myself to that line about having ice cream for breakfast, and that's
Mhm.
the marketing stuff, like you said. And it's funny too because I haven't done it yet, but I thought about um on my channel. You know how people do? Uh, I'm gonna do this thing until Ed Sheeran comments on my post, or like I'm
Mhm.
gonna play
Right.
this. I thought about doing a little campaign where I have ice cream for breakfast every day until ice cream hits like 10,000 listens or something, like something silly like that. But
That's a
man,
great
it's been
idea,
it's been a
man.
blast.
Yeah.
It's been a blast having a song like that. It's such a summery, carefree song. And it's interesting too because a lot of my songs that I have been working on are very much like more dark pop a little bit, which not like dark in the sense of like I don't know. It's more like kind of like Billie Eilish, I guess, is a
Right,
good way to
right.
put it. And so it was nice to have Ice Cream where it's like very just carefree and bright and just
Mhm.
summery. And but yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool working on this. And it was released on the first day of summer, which is very neat. Um but yeah, I've been enjoying it and can't wait to see where it goes from here too.
Absolutely. And although when I listened to the song, it gave me, the vibe of it being, there being a carefree message essentially. But
Hmm.
when you put that into context, like you just did, I think
Yeah.
it's a great message
Yeah.
because it's all about the mindset, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I'm
100%.
getting a year older every year, but does that mean I should stop doing the things that I like to do? Of course not.
Yeah.
Life is all about celebrating what we like to do with people that we love. And I think this song is a great reminder of that, no matter what you're doing, where you're doing it, just make sure you take time out to do things that make you feel good and make you feel happy as well.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's
Right?
it. You get it.
Yeah. So, Tony, moving on, you're a creative person, you're a musician, you do music. And, I've talked to a lot of people from the musical background, essentially. And, personally, I believe that music has healing powers.
Mhm.
Some of my darkest times and people that I've spoken with, a lot of people that I know have found their refuge in music, when they were down or when they were going through something. With that said, what keeps you motivated and attracted to music? And in other words, like, is it just your hobby, passion, or is it also a source of spiritual healing and peace for you? Because, like you said, that sometimes you get an idea when you're driving, sometimes you get an idea when you're about to sleep. For a lot of people, including myself, when we're like going through something, I would just plug in the headphones, sit on
Mhm.
my piano or keyboard, just play something. And by the time I'm done, I'm feeling much better.
Yeah.
So what effect does music have on you? Yes, you write music, you write great music, you're doing such good work. But at the personal level, what effect does it have
Mhm.
on you?
Yeah. So music to me is magic in real life. It's something that is so versatile in its abilities. It can change your mood in an instant. You can hear a song and you can just break down and cry just for almost no reason. It is the ultimate empathy. It is, and that's really what drove me into making music, really. And I talked about earlier, like when I saw Coldplay for the first time, I'm like, wow, this person can talk about this thing that I feel and I understand, and it can affect thousands of people in an instant. And it's just so undescribable. There's nothing like music. And from just an analytical standpoint, like what is music? It's so silly. It's rhythm, it's melodies, but to humanity it is so much. And for me, I guess just personally, like as far as creating music, if I'm not if I'm not creating something, I'm almost just not living. I'm not experiencing life. And so there's that added perspective as a creator, um, where it is purpose. It is purpose for me where every day I have to be doing something, otherwise I'm just not living. So I think just in general, as a listener, a song that comes to mind recently is, do you know the song uh What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yes. That song, when I heard that for the first time, it definitely was one of those songs where I'm like, okay, this song understands. It has
Yeah.
its own personality. It has its own life. And I'm pretty sure it won Song of the Year too, which makes total sense. And I was so happy about that too, because a song that is recognized as being so great. And just musically, it's a really pretty song. But yeah, sorry, I'm kind of just talking
Oh, this
here, just
is
rambling a little bit.
exactly what I was looking for.
But yeah, music is magic. It's and that's what I aim to do with my music too, is to create some sense of identity and something that people can relate to. Um and if I'm not being myself, it'll show in the music. So I think that's really important to any songwriters out there. If you're writing a song, just be true to yourself, and whether that's lyrics or just how you're playing a song. If you're trying to work in a chord progression and it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. So yeah, and music is just so mysterious too. Um I remember in college working on my thesis, which dealt in expression theories, um, and trying to understand how music affects people. I specifically dived into Chopin's work and essentially tried to understand how how your everyday life affects what you write, and then transversely how that music affects people as they listen to it. So yeah, it's a mystery, but it's something that we all understand too.
Exactly. No, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
I remember that, I once asked myself this question too, that okay, like what exactly is music? And I kept thinking, and the answer that I came up with was that, it is a medium through which the universe can talk to me and I can talk to the universe.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, especially when I had first moved to the US, I didn't have a lot of friends and everything, but music was something that I felt that, okay, it's answering the questions that I did not even know how to ask.
Mm,
Like without
yeah.
even me asking, it's telling me the answers.
Hmm.
And the fact that we have such a diverse music, not just in this country, but all around the world, it feels like that it could have answers to whatever questions you may have. So,
Yeah.
like you said, it's a mystery, but it makes sense. And we get it. And sometimes, well, most of the times, it gets us. So
Mhm.
it's a beautiful thing to experience, and for people like you that are creating such good music, I think you guys are providing more answers to people that just don't know what questions to ask. So hats off to you. That's why I have utmost respect and appreciation for all the musicians, because you guys are connecting to people at a level that nobody else can,
Yeah.
and I think that's amazing. So Tony, any like we've talked about ice cream, and like I said, I'm going to be posting links as part of the description of this video. So make sure you guys go and take a listen. And again, after listening to that, you might be having ice cream for breakfast, but I think that's totally worth it. So Tony, you mentioned about some of the work that you're doing with your band as well. So
Hmm.
do you have anything in the works right now that people can look forward to maybe the next few months?
Yes. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying this, but
Just a
we
hint, not details.
we are planning on having a single pretty soon. Uh Actually two singles coming up within this by the end of the year. And they are two of my favorite songs that we've been working on. And then in the next coming year, we're gonna have a lot more music to release, which I'm just ecstatic about.
Awesome.
So yeah, we'll be in the studio pretty soon, recording stuff, and expect some new music in the next few months here.
Looking forward to it totally.
Yeah.
Tony, once again, thank you so much for giving us your time and being with us today. I think it was great having you, great seeing you after a while, and my absolute pleasure having you here. So before we end our conversation today,
Hmm.
a lot of people, are inspired by your work. They listen to your music, they appreciate and love the work that you do, and they just cannot wait to hear more from you. So, do you have a message to those specific fans who look forward to your music? And also, can you also share a message for people who want to do music, who are basically very keen and passionate about the work, but maybe like they're just holding back for whatever reason. Maybe
Hmm.
they're afraid of failure, which I believe that, failure is okay as long as you keep moving on. Like people who really want to do it, but they're just not able to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Can you send a message to those folks as well? But starting with your fans first, and then for the people who
Yeah.
really want to do it but just not able to.
So to the fans, I would say always strive to be, or I guess, okay. So I think there are just so many different things going on in the world constantly, and there's so many things that you can focus on and can choose to do or not to do. And I think something that's just really important to me is just always to be that positive in the world. Um it's really easy to hyper focus on something that's negative, or attach yourself to something and be negative. um but if you understand that the world is a place where you the only things that you can change are your own changes, your own actions, and you make that positive, then the world will be a better place every day.
Of course,
um
absolutely.
and to those who are my closet creatives out there, I would say that it is way, way, way more worth the risk of whether that's failure or being wrong than it is to not do it in the first place. And what I mean by this is, you have a song that you kind of started, maybe you wrote on a ukulele or your piano or whatever, and it's not much yet, and you think it's trash. It might very well be trash, but it also might be the next greatest thing. And honestly, as you go through your career in music, whatever that looks like to you, um, I would say two things. One, there are going to be failures. You are going to only learn, not only, but you're primarily going to learn from the things that you do wrong. And that just happens to everyone. If you don't learn from mistakes, then you're not going to grow. Um, and then, oh man, what was I going to say with my other point here? Losing my train of thought here. Um, Oh, yes, that's what it was. Love what you do. Um, it is so easy to get in the mindset of creating something and automatically discounting it. A great example of this is if you work on something for like 30 plus hours, or you've been working on the same thing for the last week or 2 weeks or months, even, or years, even. And you're like, man, I just cannot listen to this anymore. I can't work on this anymore. um give yourself grace, give yourself time. Not everything is going to work out perfectly, but also know that you're your hardest critic, so chances are it probably sounds good, but you're just too hard on yourself.
Right. That's a great piece of advice, and I would say I'm gonna take that first as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, basically, I think we should just keep moving forward and just keep working on things. Like you said, even if it sounds trash to us, maybe that might not be the case for other people. So as long as we keep moving
Mhm.
forward, we're gonna find success no matter what.
Yes.
Um, well, Tony, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And to all
Mhm.
the listeners and viewers, like I said, I'm going to be posting a bunch of links in the description of this video. So make sure you guys go check it out. Specifically, the new single that Tony just released, Ice
Yes.
Cream. You guys are going to love that song. And also, please share the song with your friends and family as well, because it's summertime. We all, go out to have ice cream later in the evening, sometimes in the afternoon as well. But again, after listening to the song, we might be going out for some breakfast for ice cream
That's
as well.
right.
So, Tony, again, thank you so much for being with us. It was a great pleasure. And I hope to stay in touch with you and hopefully we'll, catch up soon again.
We totally will. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to talk again soon.
You're the life that brings me home, the light that guides the way, the thought